Hey everyone, welcome to this live session. This is a session about building REST client. So we will be building efficient microservices clients in this particular session. Last time I had this, but there was some technical difficulties, so we could not complete creating the client. But this time we'll show the working of the client end to end, and we will be building successfully a REST client which will be consuming a microservice. We'll be using our example, which is example of an e-commerce application. So let me start with what's a REST client. REST client is basically, as you know, is a client which can use type safety, and it could be able to consume the response of REST service. And MicroProfile provides a standard which is MicroProfile REST client specification. This provides the set of APIs. It is providing annotations and interfaces. By APIs I mean Java interfaces and annotations which can be used to call remote RESTful services. So basically, with annotations, the necessary client code to make the HTTP request will be generated. Now let me talk about what is type safe client. Type safe client means you would get interfaces for your remote service, and you can configure the HTTP methods, path, and parameters. Microservices or MicroProfile REST client also integrates well with configuration, MicroProfile configuration. So I'll cover that the configuration for REST client could be stored in microservice configuration files. It supports a dependency injection. So dependency injection is available in MicroProfile and Jakarta EE using CDI, context and dependency injection. And it integrates well with other specifications as well, like fault tolerance and matrices. So let's start by defining a REST client. So basically I will introduce you to our example. In the previous sessions also we have used the same example. So basically we have a product service. Product service will store information about product catalog. So we have various product data. So I have here various classes. One of the class is entity class, which is a very simple class. I'm not using right now any database because we want to demonstrate use of various microservices standard. So I'm keeping it simple. But yes, we can very quickly add database support as well. I'll show that in a different video. But for this session, we have a REST service which we already built in previous sessions. It was called product resource. So basically it provides the CRUD operations on product data, product entity, and it has, that means getters. So we have a method to get all the products. We have the method of getting in a product by ID. We have a method to create a new product, and we have a method to update a product, right? So we also we have updated this service with the Open API specification, which was another standard. So we have this beautiful documentation for the API, and this documentation will provide not only just the description of the service. For example, it says product resource is CRUD operations for products, and basically I should write supports CRUD operation for products, and then there are methods get products, which will get all products, and it will return a list of all products. We can try it out exactly in this browser, and we can execute this, and you see this data is coming. So this call is being made. So this is a very good interactive documentation. no need to use any REST client like Postman or curl. Sometimes it becomes very tedious because you have to create your headers and message body, request body, etc. yourself. So it is very inconvenient. It requires more effort. But here, even if I want to call a post API, I can very quickly just click on try it out and then provide the details, and then this will get executed, right? So I have shown all this in our previous session. So see the previous sessions on MicroProfile. You will understand about REST client and Open API specification, which was previously known as Swagger. So I've covered it in detail, but just quickly I'm demonstrating that I'm calling the post API, and I get another product, right? So now if I call the get APIs to verify this, I should see 3 products as per my details which I have added. So you see here the REST service is working well. Now I want to create another service, which is I called the inventory service. I'll share the code for inventory service also in some time. So here is the code for my inventory service. So let me share this again. I have a simple entity class. So here I have an inventory class where I have the ID of the product. Product details are available in the product service. So I have ID of the inventory, then I have the product ID, and then I have the quantity what is I am having in the stock, right? So again I have created a service here which is inventory resource service. So basically, if I have to talk about more on inventory service, this service I have built recently. I have not shared it in any session, so let's talk about this service in this session. So here I have first is my entity class or the model class. I like the word entity because later I will be able to put the entity annotation and can store it in database. So yeah, you can use model or entity for this particular structure or class. So here I have the package which is MicroProfile tutorial inventory entity. Here I have used Lombok to have the getters and setters defined. So I have that data annotation which does that. It automatically creates getters and setters, toString method. Then I have annotation no arg constructor. It will create a no argument constructor, and all argument constructor also is created with another annotation which is all arg construction. This you know because you have learned in the previous session how to define an entity class. So this is a very simple entity class. Now I have a repository class. Repository class is used to store the values of so any database interaction or any data manipulation you can do in the repository class. So here I have an inventory list, and in the inventory list I have all the inventories. You won't be searching through any inventory with the inventory ID mostly, but probably you would be getting inventory by product ID, right? So I have some methods. One is get all inventory, then I have add inventory which is the create operation, and we have method for get inventory by ID and get inventory by product ID as well, update inventory and delete inventory, right? So we have a list. So the only thing is searching operation. If you want very fast searching, then we can use instead of list a hash map by product ID or by inventory ID, whichever you want the retrieval for, but basically moving forward we will be storing it in the database, and when we move it to database, then you don't need any data structure. But yes, for you I'll emphasize that items which have less search operations, you may use list, but if you want lot of search operations, for example in case of orders etc., you may use hash map, so that you can retrieve the items very fast with the database, with the data structure. But yes, in database you don't need any data structure here. Now moving forward, I have the initialization of this inventory objects, and here I have 3 inventories which I have created, and so the other methods are similar to my previous service, but here something which is interesting is I'll show in the resource class. So basically here I have delete, update, read and create operation. All the CRUD operations are inventory defined. I'll again share the code. I'll share the link to the GitHub repository where I'll keeping this code, and then you will be able to go through in detail. But here we want to focus more on the REST client, so I'm moving to the resource class where I have defined the REST client. So here this is my resource class. In the resource class I have an inventory repository. I have product service client. This is defined as the REST client. So basically I just say inject REST client, and this is my REST client, right? So what does it does? So I have to define this REST client in another class or package. So here is my class. So basically in this particular microservice I'll need product service client, right? So here to define a REST client, this is the code. So basically you say the annotation register REST client, and then I put the config key because I want to configure the endpoint to call in this REST service, and then I define the path of the REST service. So this is path to call by the client, and definitely when I'll be consuming this, I will be consuming here and returning a product object. Now this is a microservice which will be totally decoupled from the other microservice. So I have defined a data transfer object here. It could be exactly same as our products entity, or it could be different because depending on what information you want to show to maybe a UI which will be calling this REST client, or if it is getting called in another service, then you will be also able to define a different data structure, or I would say different attributes, so that you can conveniently consume the objects, right? So this is my data transfer object. So it's totally decoupled. This product class is different and it's not same as our product class, which is in the product microservice. So this is, see, there's such a small code, only few annotations and just interface, and then I have to configure the client. So to configure the client, I have here the server.xml. In server.xml I will add the feature MicroProfile REST client. This is for the open liberty, which is my runtime to execute these microservices. And then I have here meta inf class defined. In this I have this is the product configuration, and then I have the path of my client to be called. So my service is running in this particular location, and this is the path defined, definitely slash products will be appended to it, because in my REST client I have here the path which is slash products, right? So this is how you will configure, and that's it. It is so simple to kind of configure the client and call the APIs. Now how I am using it in my inventory service is, in my inventory service in my resource class. So what do? I will check for, so let me come to the place where there is call to the products. So basically I'm using it in a service which is update stock, and in this update stock service what I am doing is I am calling the product REST client and verifying whether this product ID exists. And just for our purpose I will be printing this to console, right? You can log it also, but for convenience of this session I will be printing it in the console, and then I will be taking care of updating the inventory. So I'll get the inventory by product ID, and then I will update the inventory. So I will show this in Swagger or OpenAPI documentation, so then you will understand. So this is my product service, the Swagger API. Similarly, in another endpoint here, there's another endpoint where I'm running the inventory service. So if you see in my inventory service, again I have various endpoints, and their descriptions are also available. So here we have inventory, which is get all inventory items. So if I want to run it, so I'll get the test data which I have populated. So here this is the test data which I have populated. Now next thing is we were discussing about the inventory, and there are different APIs where I have post for inventory, add a new inventory item. But as I was saying, that most popular operation on inventory is we get the inventory for a product item and update the quantity. So here I have an endpoint where I take inventory, then I have product ID, then stock, and then quantity. So I have the value I. Okay, let's say we got some of the product sold, and now this inventory is getting reduced to say 9 items, right? So when I call this, REST client will be called, and internally we will get call to REST client. So let me show you quickly. We get the details of product ID 1. So it is an iPhone, the description. So all this we can put in any application if required. But yes, here if the product does not exist, then we may get an exception also. So here this is how it was able to find the product, and it should be able to update the inventory also. So if I go here and I see the response for this, you see inventory item stock updated. This is the response. But now if I have to verify it, I'll execute. So you remember we updated the value to 9. Earlier it was 12. So it should show for the item ID 1, we have the inventory quantity is 9, right? Again, let me show one more attempt where I will be updating for product ID 2, and product ID 2 here is the inventory, and will update the quantity to say 20. This time let's say we added more items and the quantity has become 25. So let's come back to our method. We say for product inventory 2, change the quantity to 25. I execute. Again my call, I can show you that product item 2 was also found, and its inventory value would also have been updated. Earlier it was 20, now it should be 25. So you see 20 here. Now if I execute again this service, this is updated to 25. So see, this is how this inventory service is working, and it's internally using REST client. Now let me see, I will try to call a product ID update an inventory which does not exist. Okay, so I get an error here, or did it updated? Let's see. So you get an error. So status cost 404, it's failed to execute because the item does not exist, right? I can do some exception handling also. I can define exceptions as well for the inventory service and then handle them appropriately and show a message, etc. So this is what I can also do, but at this particular moment in this example, my purpose was to demonstrate the working of REST client. So this is how it is done, right? So we'll cover error handling and we'll also cover security in the next session. So today we saw that these are various ways of calling a REST client, and we can cover security using JWT. We can cover interceptors just for collecting the matrices or performance data, log the flow for observability, all that other advanced features in the next session. So you saw this is such a nice way to implement a client, and this is very convenient because no boilerplate code you need to write, it's all auto generated. So this is much better than the traditional approach of writing HTTP client, where you have to code a lot of things, like you have to write HTTP URL connection, then you have to take care of response objects. So here you have very less coding which has to be done manually. Mostly it is auto generated and mostly it is configured. So this is also about configuration. It is easy to modify, and there is less code. So if you have to update the endpoint, you don't have to rebuild the project, you just have to update the configuration. Definitely you would need the dependency to be defined in pom.xml, and annotation which is register REST client. This is very important. So I'm just recapping because this is what I wanted to share in this session. So I have completed the demo, but now I am recapping it. And this path annotation is about what is the path to the service endpoint. And then we have the configuration in this file, which is MicroProfile config.properties. Anyway, I will be sharing you the GitHub code so you can understand it. Right, and in the service when you are calling, the way to call is by injecting the dependency. So here you see that I have injected the dependency, inject REST client, right? So this means the inventory will be, the REST client will be injected, and this is through CDI. And then we can have the logic to verify the inventory. So as I mentioned, the advanced topic about how do we define an exception, that we can take up in the next session. How do you do security using JWT, that we can take up in the next session. And then we'll also talk about some best practices. For example, we might want to set up some connection pooling. We might want to have some timeouts. We would like to enable matrices to track the performance of our service. So that all we can do in the next session. And definitely I'll be sharing in a description 3 more information. One is I'll share the GitHub repo where I have the code of this example. I will also be very thankful if you can subscribe to this channel, and any feedback, any queries if you have about Microprofile REST client, feel free to share via comments below the video, and keep coding. See you next time. Thank you.